Hello everyone and welcome to another Honkai Star Rail video. The new 5-star destruction character Yunli is out, and in this video I'm going to be making a guide on how to use her. Okay, so the first thing is her technique, which is basically just kind of like push ones, except instead of just blocking, she gains the ward stack when she's attacked. You don't get ambushed. She blocks it, but you enter battle and she immediately launches an enhanced counter. Now then, let's get into the rest of her kit. First of all, her basic attack is it just attacks a single enemy with the physical damage. Her skill, it has blast damage to 3 enemies, basically one main enemy and 2 enemies adjacent, up to 2 enemies adjacent to it, and it also restores some of her HP. The reason this is good is because it helps to sustain her, because her kit is very similar to Clara's, where she wants to get hit as much as possible by the enemy and then counterattack. Counterattacking is the main aspect of her kit, which leads me right into a talent, which is when Yunli gets attacked by an enemy target, additionally regenerates 15 energy and immediately launches a counter on the attacker, dealing physical damage to it and to adjacent targets. Next, we have her ultimate, which costs 120 energy. It states that Yunli gains parry and taunts all enemies, lasting until the end of the next ally's or enemy's turn. So it's just an AoE taunt, and it also gives her the parry state, but it only lasts until the next ally's or enemy's turn, which means it will expire if you use it incorrectly. Like if you use it and then another one of your allies takes a turn, then it will expire before Yunli can get hit. So ideally you want to use this right before an enemy's turn so that the enemy attacks her, because they will be taunted. It increases crit damage dealt by the next counter, and when triggering the counter effect from the talent, it launches the counter into its call instead and removes the parry effect. Basically, after you cast her ult, if you get hit, then a talent triggers, but instead of launching a normal counter, it will launch an enhanced counter called Intuit Call, and then it will remove the parry effect. Intuit Call basically deals physical damage to the target, basically the enemy who attacked her, and deals physical damage to adjacent targets, so it's also a blast attack, and then additionally deals 6 more instances of damage to a random single enemy. Now, if you use her ultimate and you don't get attacked, then she will, instead of launching the Intuit Call, will launch another counter called Intuit Slash on a random enemy target. Intuit Slash is basically just the same as Intuit Call, but is a weaker version, meaning it will deal an enhanced counter attack, which is a blast attack, but it will not deal the extra 6 instances of damage, meaning you get less damage from it. So you will always want to try and time it so that when you use your ultimate, it's right before an enemy's turn, so she gets hit and then she unleashes the stronger counterattack. But even if she doesn't, she still unleashes a weaker counterattack. It's a loss in DPS, but at least it's not a complete loss, so there's that. She also has the capacity to carry 240 energy, as shown by this outer ring on her ultimate, as well as these 2 dots. So she can store up to 240 energy, meaning she can store up to 2 charges of her ultimate. Okay, this is her skill, which does that. And now, as the game is showing, you want to use her ult before the enemy attack. So in this case, if I were to use the ult after the enemy attacks, my ally would take a turn and then the parry state will expire and she will launch into its slash, i.e. the weaker version of the enhanced counter. So if I time it now, then she gets attacked and she launches the enhanced counter, which not only does blast damage but also 6 extra instances of damage. Here's the normal counter. If I use her ultimate here, an ally is gonna take a turn. Okay, now it's an ally's turn after using her ultimate, and now that an ally has taken a turn, she will unleash the attack, but there were no extra instances of damage because that was the weaker version. Now her passives, her A2 makes it so that if you use her ultimate but don't get hit, she will still release her Intuit Slash. But if it happens 2 times in a row, like it happened already once, and the next time you use her ultimate, even if she doesn't get hit, she will still unleash Intuit Call, the stronger version of the counter. Her A4 makes it so that when she's in her parry state, she resists all crowd control debuffs, and also the damage she receives is reduced by 20%. Her A6 makes it that when using a counter, her attack increases by 30% that lasts for 1 turn. From her traces, she gets about 6.7% crit rate, 28% attack, and 18% HP. As for her trace priority, I would say first level up her ultimate and her talent, then her skill and her basic attack, not really necessary. But if you want to level it up last. As for her light cones, her best in slot is obviously going to be her signature, Dance at Sunset, which greatly increases the wearer's chance of getting attacked, meaning it increases her aggro, gives her 36% crit damage at S1, 60% at S5, and it also states that after the wearer uses her ultimate receives 1 stack of fire dance lasting for 2 turns and stacking up to 2 times. Each stack of fire dance increases damage dealt by the wearer's follow-up attack by 36%, and it also gives her follow-up attack damage bonus 36% up to 72% at S1 and 60% up to 120% at S5. Blade's Light Cone is also a good one, the unreachable side. It increases crit rate and also increases max HP, which makes her more tanky. And when the wearer is attacked or consumes their own HP, which is going to happen a lot because her whole kit revolves around getting attacked, the damage increases by 20%, so 24% at S1. So this is definitely a very good option. Embroidered Luna is brighter than the sun, gives her a crit rate, but for the rest of this kit, like you have to use her basic attack, which you won't really be using because you want to use a skill to heal herself. You won't get the full benefits, but the crit boost is nice, I guess. Clara's Light Cone, something irreplaceable, is also a good option because it increases their attack, and also when the wearer defeats an enemy or is hit, immediately restores HP equals to 8% of the wearer's attack. At the same time, the wearer's damage is increased by 24% until the end of the next turn. So this effect cannot stack and can only trigger 1 time, but it's still very useful. It increases attack. Whenever she defeats an enemy or is hit, she will recover HP equal to 8%, which will help with the sustain. Even though it's once per turn, it's still not bad. And it will also give her damage buff as well, so that's always good. The free-to-play option on the Fall of an Aeon is also a decent option for her. It's always a good option for her if you don't have any of the premium light cones or even Clara's light cone. This gives a good attack bonus, and you can S5 it for free, so from the Herder store in Simulator Universe. So basically gives 16% attack bonus, and it can stack up to 4 times, which means up to 64% attack bonus after the wearer breaks an enemy's weakness. And if you can break enemy weaknesses with her, which you probably will if you go into physical weakness enemies, it will also give her a damage boost as well. So it's also a very good option. A good 4-star option is Under the Blue Sky, which increases the wearer's attack, and when the wearer defeats an enemy, the wearer's crit rate increases by 12% for 3 turns. It's also a pretty good option considering she will be attacking a lot and more often than not will probably end up defeating the enemies. So you will get a nice crit rate boost as well as the attack boost you get. Alright, next let's talk about her relic sets. The best in slot is the 4-piece Wind Soaring Valorous, which gives 12% attack bonus as the 2-piece bonus, and the 4-piece bonus increases the wearer's crit rate by 6%, and also when the wearer uses a follow-up attack, increases the damage dealt by the ultimate by 36%. Then we have the Ash Blazing Grand Duke, whose 2-piece bonus increases damage dealt by follow-up attacks, and its 4-piece bonus states that when the wearer uses follow-up attacks, increases the wearer's attack by 4% every time the follow-up attack deals damage. This effect can only stack up to 8 times and lasts for 3 turns. So it basically gives her damage buff whenever she uses her follow-up attack, so it's definitely a good option. Another set that can be good in her is the 4-piece Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters, but you kind of need 3 debuffs on the enemy, so you might have to run some debuffers with her in order to fully utilize the buffs from this set. And the 4-piece of the Pioneer effect can be activated when you use her ultimate because it casts an AoE taunt which counts as a debuff, and thus it triggers the 4-piece effect as well. You can also use 4-piece Longevous Disciple because it gives an extra 16% crit rate. You can also use the 4-piece Champion of Streetwise Boxing, which gives physical damage boost. And since it's an older set, there is a chance you might already have some good pieces on this. So if you have this, you can use this for the time being until you can farm better sets. It gives a physical damage bonus as well as an attack boost, so it's definitely a decent set to use on her, especially if you have good pieces on this already. You can also use 2-piece physical with 2-piece Valorous or 2-piece Ash Blazing or any of the 2-piece attack buff relic sets in any combination until you can farm a proper 4-piece set that you want to use. As for her planar ornaments, the best option for her is Duran Dynasty of Running Wolves. It states that when allies use follow-up attacks, the wearer gains 1 stack of merit, stacking up to 5 times. Each stack of merit increases the damage dealt by the wearer's follow-up attacks by 5%. When there are 5 stacks, additionally increases the wearer's crit damage by 25%. So it's definitely an extremely good option. This is the best option for her in terms of planar ornaments right now. Another good option is the Inert Salsodo, which gives 8% crit rate just because, and it also states that whenever the crit rate reaches 50% or higher, which it should on your build, whereas ultimate and follow-up attack damage increases by 15%. However, even though the Intuit attacks, the Intuit Call, the Intuit Slash, do count as both follow-up and ultimate damage, this effect does not stack. It will still give you an extra 15% only, not 30%, because it counts as both. It just picks one and applies the buff once. Another option you can use are the Sigonia ones. It increases wearer's crit rate by 4%, and when an enemy target gets defeated, the wearer's crit damage increases by 4%, stacking up to 10 times. This one is especially good in pure fiction, where you have like multiple waves of weaker enemies coming in and she will be defeating them one by one, so the crit damage stacks up a lot better. But in the other game modes where you're not fighting that many enemies in waves and stuff, I would say this isn't as good. Duran is definitely the best one for her in pretty much all scenarios. But yeah, Sigonia is good, especially in pure fiction, not so much in the other modes. As for her main stats, you want a crit rate or crit damage body piece based on how much crit rate you have. You should aim for 70 to 80% crit rate. If you are below that, then you should probably get a crit rate one. But if you have sufficient crit rate, then go for a crit damage body piece. She wants attack percent boots. She does not want speed. She wants to be as slow as possible. For orb, you want physical damage bonus, but if you don't have it, you can use an attack percent, but physical damage bonus is better. As for rope, you want attack percent. You could use ERR, but attack percent is better. As for substats, you want crit rate, crit damage, and then attack percent. And other than that, you would want HP percent, defense percent, and effect raise, basically to increase her tankiness so she doesn't die from getting hit so much. As for her Eidolons, her E1 increases the damage dealt by Intuit Slash and Intuit Call by 20%. It also increases the number of additional damage instances for Intuit Call, so it basically increases her ultimate's damage as well as makes the Intuit Call have more damage instances, meaning it's just an overall damage boost for her ultimate. Her E2 makes it that when dealing damage via counter, it ignores 20% of the target's defense, which is pretty good because defense ignore is nuts. E3 is just a level up for ultimate and her basic attack. E4, it just increases her effect rate by 50% after using her ultimate. E5 is a level up for her skill and her talent. So E6 makes it so that when you use her ultimate and the enemy uses any ability, doesn't matter if it attacks, debuffs, or even just buffs themselves, as long as they use any ability, she will just launch her stronger Intuit Call attack. So it's basically just a big old safety net for her ultimate. and it also gives 15% extra crit rate and also increases physical red spin by 20%. As for whether to get E1 or S1, I'd say S1 is better because her light cone provides a lot more value than this. This just increases her ultimate damage a little bit, where the light cone greatly increases her aggro and gives her crit damage, and it also makes it so that whenever she uses her ultimate, she gets 36% damage bonus up to 72% at S1. So her light cone provides a lot more value than her E1. So S1 over E1. Now as for her team comps, she is basically like Clara, where you can fit her into a lot of team comps. She does have follow-up attacks, which means follow-up support, like Robin is definitely a good option to use with her. March 7th will also be a good option to use with her. Lynx is also a good free option you can use with her because Lynx's skill increases aggro when used on a destruction character. So when you use her skill to heal her, not only will she be healed, but she will also have her aggro increased, which is good. Ting Yun is also a good support you can use with her because of the buffs she provides as well as the energy she can provide with her ultimate, and making it so that you only can use her ultimate more. A good premium 5-star teammate would be Topaz, because Topaz not only does damage, but she also buffs follow-up attack damage. These are some potential teammates you can use with her to form your teams. There are also other options you can use, but these are just some of the better options. There are also other characters you can use, like if you don't have Robin, you can use other supports. Like you can use a better sustain than Lynx if you want to, but the reason I put Lynx here is because of her ability to increase aggro, which synergizes with her pretty well. So yeah, she is definitely a very versatile and flexible DPS that can be used with a lot of different team comps, specifically a lot of free-to-play friendly team comps. And she's also very good in pretty much all of the current endgame modes. Yeah, she's good. She's good in Pure Fiction, in MOC, and in Apocalyptic Shadow as well. She's very versatile and very useful. So if you are in need of a DPS or if you're a new player, then I would recommend picking her up because she is very good. She's not game breaking like Acheron or Firefly or stuff like that, but she is very, very versatile and very, very useful. But if you already have like a bunch of DPSs and stuff, then you might not need it. If you found this video enjoyable or useful, then please do leave a like. So leave a comment and also subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. See you all in the next one.